tourism really is critical to the bottom line for a lot of our members and a lot of our distilleries, because people still want that experience. Still, people want to come to Kentucky and see where the one true home of bourbon is. So it's imperative for us here at the KDA to keep pushing that message.
Hey everybody, welcome back. It's another episode of Bourbon Pursuit, the official podcast of bourbon coming at you. I'm Kenny Coleman.
Ryan Cecil here.
And we are continuing bringing on guests from our past 10 years. This is going to be a four-peater.
Four-peat.
I know.
It has to be the only four-peat.
One of the few four-peaters.
Do I get a jacket or something?
You're going to get a lightning bolt patch at the end of this is what you're going to get.
We got a nice lapel pin down there.
Nice.
We're going to do that. But, our guest today, he's been on before. He's been part of the Kentucky Distillers Association, one of the champions behind the Kentucky Bourbon Trail a long time ago. And I was actually going through and looking at some of the first episodes.
What did we talk about?
Well, he was in the first 10.
Please tell me, because I'm trying to remember.
You're on the first 10. We actually talked about episode 8. Like, what is the Kentucky Bourbon Trail? That was back in April 1st of 2015 when we launched that. So,
wow.
Good to know that I think the Bourbon Trail is still healthy and alive today, 10 years later. So
all our hair was darker back then.
That is for sure.
Then we talked about the fantasy camp for bourbon lovers, right? When Bourbon Affair was doing that thing too as well. And then you're also on episode 48 when we talked about the Kentucky Bourbon Fair again. So it was a twofer when it comes to that. So we have Adam Johnson on the show. Adam is the VP of State Relations for the Kentucky Distillers Association. So welcome.
Yeah, it's great to be back. Can I tell a quick story about the first time we recorded? I don't even know if you guys will remember this.
Oh, gosh. It's got to be embarrassing.
I remember doing it in my office at my old house.
Well, we did it by phone, if you recall, and I was sick as a dog. And can I curse on the show?
Yeah, you're good. Okay. You're good. Remember, Fred No's been on here before, so
okay.
You're good.
So, we did the whole podcast, and I had the flu. We made it. I thought I was a professional. I did a good job.
You're like Michael Jordan
and I
with
think
the flu game.
Kenny goes, "Oh shit, I forgot to hit record."
That was one of those.
And I went, "All right, let's do it again." And then, but I was kind of like hallucinogenic. I was like, "Did we already talk about this, or did we not?" Because we just talked about it. So anyway, fun story. So to be here in the studio after our phone interviews, I mean, you guys, it's amazing what you guys have done. So I appreciate you having me on this kind of nostalgic tour.
No, I appreciate it. And now the thing is like nobody that's watching this, you can't see it, but Adam can see it. It's like we actually have backups on backups. So not only will we hit record, it records to an SD card, it records to a USB, it also records to a hard drive. So it records 3 different ways to get the audio. So we know that
we tried to idiot-proof it.
But as much as possible.
This is unbelievable. So well done.
No, I appreciate it. Well, it's good to have you back. So I guess it's been a long time since it's been on. So how has your role changed inside of the KDA? Because, like I said, back then we were talking about the Bourbon Affair. We were talking about just the Bourbon Trail in general and raising a lot of awareness for it. Talk about just, what's been going on since that time.
Because it's been wildly successful. You hear the numbers and all the stats and this and that of bourbon tourism, and it's been an awesome 10 years.
Well, I think... I'm coming up on maybe almost 2 decades working. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it feels like a while. And I think my career kind of mirrors the growth in the industry. And I started off in tourism, working the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. I did that for over 10 years. And I think, as you mentioned, that's what we discussed primarily when I've been on the show. But now I'm kind of working more on state with other states and federal issues. So that's really what's taken up much of my time, where when I started the KDA, it was me and 2 other people. We now have 9 employees, again, showing the growth in the industry. So I've kind of moved on to other issues, whether it's all the stuff that I'm sure affects you guys, like whether it's tariffs, DTC issues, limited self-distribution, dietary guidelines, all the stuff that you kind of read in the paper. That's kind of my job, to help mitigate that, educate our members. I think my tourism background on the KBT really helped me get to know our members, know what the consumer wants.
You got to do a better job on the dietary guidelines.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started. That's a different podcast. But yeah, those are the things that really take up a lot of our time now. And it's just just focusing again on our members, focusing on tourism as we talked before we started. And I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit, but tourism still is the backbone for a lot of our guys here in Kentucky. As you guys know, when people come in, they buy a bottle, they get that experience, and that's still a huge thing for particularly our smaller guys, is getting those sales. So,
and our lifeline. I mean,
it truly has.
Yeah, I would love to know the numbers of when people come in here, how many buy a bottle.
Okay, we're not that data driven yet. I guess we need to get
or generally.
Yeah, generally. I mean, I actually had to pull these numbers for something else, and we don't have a ticker of people that actually.
We don't have a cop sitting there of counting people coming in,
thinking walk through the door. But we actually did just get. I had to pull some numbers of what the amount of people that booked experiences through here, and in like 2024, it was around 2,800. Right, for a small brand like us. That's great. We're not Angel's Envy. We're not doing 175,000 people through the door. But for 2,800 people coming in, I can guarantee you that is at least 2,500 that are buying a bottle because of the experience that we have through
that
here.
Doesn't count all the random walk-ins, people hearing about us, stopping in, buying bottles and stuff. So, yeah, it's been great.
I just spoke to one of our members this morning, Brent Gooden, out there, kind of middle, western, central Kentucky at Boundary Oak. And he just said, it's so huge, the tourism component of what they do when 70% of people are buying a bottle when they come in. I mean, it is. I mean, that's why the Kentucky Bourbon Trail is just instrumental. And I think you've seen that growth, again, mirroring the industry as a whole. When I started, I think there was probably 8 Kentucky Bourbon Trail distilleries, and now we're 60 plus. We've kind of taken that craft component, melded it together with the old kind of heritage style KBT, and it's been great. And I think it just shows, as I'm sure we'll also get into, where the industry's at now. Tourism really is critical to the bottom line for a lot of our members and a lot of our distilleries, because people still want that experience. Still, people want to come to Kentucky and see where the one true home of bourbon is. So it's imperative for us here at the KDA to keep pushing that message.
Yeah, we've slacked. We will join the KDA soon. It's not.
Yeah, I have an application for you guys, like in my car.
Let's go ahead and sign it with blood right here while we're here, Adam. But you're right. It's like tourism is such a huge driver and component of this, and that's the main reason why we're investing in a facility on Whiskey Row, just because we know that. We talked to our friends at all the different places around there, and the amount of they were doing in sales per month is sometimes more than we were doing an entire year in a state. And it just made absolute sense to go ahead and stake a home, put a stake in the ground, make it a home, make it a brand destination. It allows us to not only capture a lot of that visitor center traffic, but it reduces our need to rely on distribution. And everybody, you deal with states and everything, so what kind of headache that has to deal with as well with that. But it's all around. It's going to be hopefully a win-win once we get these doors open down there.
When is that?
We should.
We're always 30 days.
We're always 30 days away.
Yeah,
it's the
hopefully
best
by the time this airs.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, for anybody that doesn't know, we're recording at the distillery today, but we were supposed to be open downtown already, but we were already running out of content. So we said, well, we can't stop the recording schedule. We have to record. So hence why we're here today.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I guess give us some kind of idea of where you've seen the Kentucky Bourbon Trail and the amount of visitors kind of flow over the past couple of years, and sort of where do you kind of see this also blossoming and going? You had to look in a crystal ball.
Yeah, you can edit out silence as I think about this a little bit. But I think I'll just start from where I started. People kind of came in for the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, and I'm sure you guys remember this. I'm just going to pop in for the weekend, right? I'm gonna go into Woodford, and then maybe I'll just go across the river and stop in at Wild Turkey. And then that passport program that we had just kept growing and growing in popularity. People were really motivated by it. It was a great way to educate people on the scope and scale of the Kentucky Bourbon Trail's growth. And then it became less of a weekend trip and became, this is more of a bucket list item. I'm going to bring in more of a group. I'm going to bring in my friends. And then it became, I want to have a bachelorette party. And then the length of time that people were spending on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail went from a Saturday to a weekend to 3 days to a week. And now people are coming in from even longer stays. They're hitting more distilleries. They're more interested in getting out across the state and seeing, more options. And now I think too, where it was, I think, because I asked Mandy, Mandy's the Kentucky Bourbon Trail director, and I said, prime me, give me some stuff for you.
Maybe
guys.
your wife as well,
also,
right?
yeah. So it's very convenient. It's very convenient. And she
at breakfast this morning.
Yeah, exactly. So she said that we've really seen the growth outside of that 6-hour drive radius. So if you actually look at some what the distillers are reporting to us, we're getting California. We're getting New York, we're getting Florida, and that's some of the marketing that Mandy and Colleen and the marketing team at the KBT have done, and that's really paying dividends. So that's really been a big change to me, and I was around really in that transition too. Man, I feel really old, so this is making this nostalgia towards really making me feel.
We're all feeling like
gray hairs. I mean, I remember stories like you guys remember Al Young at Four Roses. Oh, yeah. He would say, people would just come on and hey, you on the buying line, can you just take this person around real quick? Think about that. I mean, it's just kind of wild to me. I always kind of go back to again, on Four Roses, going to Cox's Creek to that. I mean, I just remember there'd just be cows walking between the rick houses, and you'd go through that gate, and then somebody would be like dumping a barrel, like, hey, you want to help me? Yeah. I mean, so if you think about where those experiences started to now, the breadth of, and I'm sure you guys are going through this, like, what are the experiences that our visitors are going to want? How do I get them behind the scenes of our brand? That's what our guys are doing, whether it's culinary, distillers for a day, like at Hartfield & Co. I mean, there's just so many things that our guys are doing because the public wants that. And it's, trying to meet, I think the challenge is trying to meet the public with, what can I do? I mean, these are factories, right? I mean, these are working production facilities. How can I thread the needle of providing great experience? But also, I got to make whiskey, right? So I think that's been a fun transition to see what all our guys are doing. And you mentioned like the Bourbon Affair, right? I think that was really part of the vanguard of these experiences to get people behind the scenes. And we felt kind of an imperative at the KDA to do that. When the Bourbon Affair was really kind of the first of its kind. Now our brands are doing that stuff on their own on a daily basis with all these connoisseur clubs and different events that our guys are doing. So that's been the change for me. That was pretty long-winded. I'm sorry. But I just feel like...
We like long-winded guests.
You've just seen that kind of evolution of, I'm just popping in because I'm in town at Keeneland. I want to see a distillery. Now it's a bucket list, 7 day, 8, 10 days. I'm bringing all my friends. As we always say, just go into a distillery parking lot and look at those license plates.
And two, I think you have a lot of people come in. This happens like 9 times out of 10. They're like, oh, I'm in for 2 days and I'm going to hit 6, 7 places, and they realize they only make like 3, and then they're like, oh, I got to come back, and then they stay longer. And
absolutely.
I
think we've really helped try to change the mindset on that with everything that we do on our website and the marketing, because we are trying to make sure people have the time to experience these things, have a good experience, and do it responsibly. I mean, these are drinking experiences, so we want to make sure people are not doing anything stupid by any means. So we tell people 2 or 3 a day. And I think that kind of changed a little bit too. In the early days of the passport, you would see people like, I'm just going to drive to 6 or 7, get a stamp and get out of there. That's not what we want. I mean, you want to get behind the scenes, learn about the brands, learn about bourbon and any of the other products our guys might be doing. So
there was a lot of legislation that allowed, distilleries to be able to offer. It used to be like you could only sample, or they could only buy like so many bottles. They couldn't have cocktails, or there was a lot of legislation that kind of helped add fuel to this fire.
That is hugely important.
And the KDA was beyond that.
Yeah, and that's really kind of why our members pay us, why you guys should write me a check today.
Got it, fine.
Is really trying to help with some of those privileges. When I started, you could not have a cocktail. I mean, think about that. I mean, think about the cocktail bars that we have across the KBT. Now, I was just here last weekend, and I mean, like what Michter's does at the bar for Fort Nelson. It's unbelievable, right? That didn't exist until the end of 2016, and that's something that our members really have us working on behind the scenes on their behalf at the KDA. So whether it's increased samples, cocktail experiences, direct-to-consumer shipping, limited self-distribution, these are all things that really help our members compete better. And it kind of meets what the consumer need. Yeah, I mean, we tell the story all the time. I mean, you guys can kind of guess. What was the number one request from every visitor for the last 20 years when they buy a bottle?
Get it
How do I
signed.
get
Get
this
it signed? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like, how do I get this home?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
that-
gotta
that-
get
Can I
this
ship
home.
this? So that's
Yeah.
where it started is, when I just dipped this bottle at Maker's Mark, like, I flew here. I don't want to check it back. I mean, this is where it started. So we just took that and ran, and now we're really one of, I feel like maybe 4 pure DTC states, and part of my job is to get that to 50. It's just really kind of increase that
Yeah,
market
'cause
access.
where's it at right now?
Well, hold on. Before we get there, I want to
Okay.
make sure because I love the spin because I definitely want to get there. But when we talked about just I want to stay on this visitation route,
Mhm.
sort of where do you see the next few years going if you all have a crystal ball?
Oh, right. I didn't get to that, did I?
It's okay. We love taking different ways to spin.
I
this
think
around.
the numbers show that things are still pretty strong. We were at 2.9 million total visits last year, and
That was like 2.2 the year before, right?
yeah. I mean, now we are adding distilleries to the KBT. Nonetheless, we're seeing growth, or at least holding steady across the KBT. So, yeah, we anticipate that number staying strong or increasing a little bit. People still want to get out. People still want to experience these things. So we still feel pretty bullish about that. I think the biggest change, as I kind of touched on a little bit, is we're getting people farther afield. It's a little bit less of that drive range, and we've paid a lot for research to try to crack that a little bit about where these people are coming from, where they're driving in from. But really, we're just seeing people from across the U.S. And as we kind of get into what scares us is some of that international travel. We just had some data that came in that in terms of coming to Kentucky, 3% of our visitors are from an international destination, but the spend is 15%
from those visitors.
from those visitors. So when you see the geopolitical situation that we're in, obviously it gives you some pause because we want to make sure we're still a welcoming place and people can come in. But it's obviously something that we're keeping an eye on because it is an important factor. While it may be 3% of total visits, that 15% spend is
It's
huge.
Yeah.
It's huge.
I would love to be able to see Louisville International Airport actually really come true with that middle part of being international, because if
Not
we
just for UPS.
not just for UPS, exactly. And so it'd be really good to be able to have something that
Yeah, we had somebody in from London yesterday.
Yesterday.
And it was like, oh, Nashville now has a direct flight from London. And it's
Mhm.
like, it'd be awesome. They were, they say American whiskey's growing over there, and it'd be awesome to have that direct flight, from London
Right.
to Louisville or whatever.
Well, and that's stuff that Mandy and Colleen are working on with our tourism partners because, I mean, think about when you go overseas, you may not know what county line you're going over. That Nashville, Kentucky connection is huge for an international visitor. People are going to do multiple states while they're here. So working with CVBs, Clio in Louisville, Mary Quinn in Lexington, all our big DMOs, Northern Kentucky. It's a big part of what we do to kind of liaise with them to make sure that we're tapping into that market because it's so important to us.
Yeah. All right. So the goal here is that it's going up. There's no sort of fall down in tourism. I think that's the thing that we've always come to see when you have events that are selling out in 72 hours and everything like that. So it goes to show you that I don't think the tourism aspect's going anywhere. Yeah, there might have been a little bit of overproduction, and we've all, I guess I should say but people that have been in the industry for a long time have seen this happen before, and they know that it'll eventually rebound and we'll get there again. So let's go ahead and let's kind of spin this back around to sort of your bread and butter here, talking about DTC. Because for us, that's one of the biggest things that we would love to see is having Kentucky be something that, we can ship to all states. We can work with, ship compliant, Provost, or whatever it is, and Sovos, and making sure that we can do all that. So sort of what's the state of DTC right now?
I think market access is so important. DTC is obviously a component of that. But that's why I like to mention that limited self-distribution. Not every state has that privilege because it's just another way for you guys to get your product to the consumer. DTC is something, in my mind, a little bit of a mixed bag right now. We have some states like us that have a pretty clean DTC bill. It's reciprocal. Did you guys see recently, like New York? recently
Yeah.
allowed at,
Mhm.
but there's a 75,000 gallon cap on that. So anything above that, you can't DTC. That's recently just been challenged in court. Not necessarily the 75 cap, but just this reciprocal component of it. And so I would say there's roughly 4 to 6 really good DTC states, but a lot of the bigger markets like New York, Florida, California, those are still kind of contested.
Why is that? Why do you think they're holding back? What's the biggest thing?
I think the middle tier of the 3-tier system is a little hesitant, where we just try to make the argument that so for example, wine you can probably DTC 48 out of the 50 states, maybe it's 49. A vast majority of the United States you can ship wine, right? I think it represents something like 3 to 5% of the total wine market, because and I don't drink wine much, but like Josh, like you're not going to DTC a certain wine brand. You're going to
Sure.
get those special one-offs, just like that's the argument we make with spirits. You're not going to DTC
White label beam, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why that middle tier is so important to our brands. None of our guys want to self-distribute, I would argue. No one wants to go through this. That's why the distribution tier.
You need your mass market.
Exactly.
capability.
So they would want something. I think our guys want those kind of special one-offs. Like, so I was using that example of, let's say Maker's Mark. You're not going to DTC, your standard, dipped everyday makers, but when they do like the DNA series or a special wood finish or something for perhaps a charity or something, that's what the consumer would say. Oh yeah,
Or your bottle you dipped yourself at the distillery.
Exactly.
It's no different when I go to Napa.
Exactly.
I have 3 different wine club memberships that I couldn't buy those bottles here in Kentucky. I can only, because it's a small mom and pop winery. And you go to Napa and there's so many, there's hundreds and hundreds of wineries that their sole business is DTC and wine club gift shop sales. That's all they do. They don't go
Precisely.
into distribution. And it's like, it's a level playing field for smaller brands.
Yeah, and I think you guys, I'm sure for your brand, you would want that opportunity to say, we've got, Adam's Pick, that we did a 375. And then we tried to tell our members, like, hey, use DTC as a way to find new markets. So if you are using DTC and it's hugely popular, say in Nebraska, that's what you can take that data to your distributor and say, look at this market. Look how many bottles I'm shipping here. My product needs to be here on the shelves more readily available. So DTC really is a tool that is hugely important. Part of my role is on that national level. I liaise with the American Craft Spirits Association, ADI, Discus, and especially if you're one of our smaller members, number one thing those guys want is DTC. It is just so important to get that product out into the market, because distribution is tough. There's a lot of products out there. There's a lot of competition. So it's a way to really be able to engage with those consumers in a way that, like you said before, I think levels the playing field a bit.
Yeah, and to be fair, we've been banging this drum forever. We totally agree. We'd love to see DTC become way more relevant and accessible to distillers and smaller players like us, because A, it's hard to fight with distribution. B, we can get the bottles in the hands of the consumers that we know that want them. But do you feel like it's that middle layer that's really holding it back because they're trying to play a turf war, or is it dealing with the states and reciprocal taxes and all this other kind of stuff?
It's probably a cocktail of all those things.
Okay.
Yeah. I do think just what we went through here in Kentucky, it is difficult to change on a state level. So I think a part of that is just the bureaucracy and the time it takes, and just the education to legislators. I think a lot of people just assume, I think we love it when a key legislator comes into a distillery and is like, hey, I bought this bottle, and wait, what do you mean I can't ship it back? I get wine shipped to my house all the time. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Let me use this.
You're part of the problem, buddy.
So, I do think that is one of our strategies, is really trying to educate people. It's one of my primary roles out on the road with different legislative caucuses, or, I've helped other states where I go down there and just try to help educate those members about how they can best educate their legislators to help make this change. But it's going to take a while.
Yeah, no, that's the unfortunate part because we've been talking about it for
It's been 10 years.
10 years, I feel like, right? Since we started the show and talking about it. When you do talk to those other states, are you talking about like, hey, we're doing this so we can help Kentucky? Or is it, hey, you've got some other craft distilleries here in Nebraska, Michigan, Wisconsin, whatever. And there's some people in Kentucky that want to get some of this access. I mean, do you try to look at this as like, we're all going to try to play ball together? Is it,
or your state might benefit from this sales tax revenue you get from, that.
You guys can come work for us. That's exactly what I say. I feel like
we got your pitch nailed down there, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, I always take the tact that we're trying to grow the spirits category. And the only way we can do this is working together. Absolutely. Do I want our member brands going into these states? Of course. But I'm also a spirits enthusiast myself. I want to be able to try some of these things. And I think it only grows that category. I mean, if you look, spirits has finally overtaken beer, not by volume, but,
by dollar amounts.
Right. We just seen real growth in that spirits category versus beer and wine. So I think this is like hand in glove with that is, hey, let's get spirits to more consumers, however the consumer wants it. And that's going to grow the category that helps our members, and it's going to help the taxes, as you mentioned, as well. So, the whole tax component of this is, again, another, I'll come back for whatever number we're on episode-wise.
Yeah, we'll figure out when that comes out.
I have an interesting question.
Sorry.
I'll judge.
Get interesting.
I'll judge if that's interesting.
With the, the growth of like cannabis, THC drinks, and this and that, what's the stance from the KDA, and like, what are they, do they see as a threat, or is they like, because it seems like states have been more lenient, with those products coming out for whatever reason, and it's and now they're kind of rolling back some guidelines and stuff. But yeah, what's kind of the thought behind the KDA and all that?
Yeah, I would use the first word that kind of comes to my mind is two words, is like parity and patchwork. I mean, if you guys are trying to get distributed in other states, you realize every state is different, right? There's just a patchwork of different rules and regulations. That seems to be the case with these THC drinks. Every state is kind of treating it differently. Here in Kentucky, we were just trying to say, hey, parity, like, let's treat this like you would treat alcohol. It needs to be regulated. I think there was a time where you didn't even have to be 21 to buy this stuff. Who's testing this stuff? Like what? Like, let's make sure that
Ryan's testing most of that.
Let's make sure that like the label matches, right? I mean, there's just so many things, like the tax part of it too. So that's what we try to say is like, we are the most regulated industry, and
because we have about 100-year head start on them. I think that's probably why. But
right. I mean, these have just come out of the gate like crazy, and so I think we're just trying to provide some education and just reinforcing this idea of, hey, let's regulate this like you would alcohol or even firearms or something. There's got to be some rules on this because it is an intoxicating beverage.
I agree, and it's hard. I picture this from if I was a business owner, let's say a bar or restaurant owner. I don't think I would ever serve THC as a part of my menu, because if somebody's going to come in, well, they're going to order one drink. Like, as a business owner, I want you having 2 or 3 of them. And if you're just going to order one and wait for that buzz to hit for an hour later and you're just drinking water, as a business owner, that doesn't make good sense to me. I can kind of see the allure from a consumer perspective, but I don't know where it makes sense from a bar or restaurant perspective. But it's good to kind of understand where you see this. I do feel like there's a slight need for all the regulatory stance, because there's no limit to how much THC can go into some of these until they just rolled back the recent regulations of it, and they said, no, it has to be capped at this much, because there's a chance of having 16 doses in a single drink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I agree. That's why we tried to take a look and be helpful in this last legislative session on this, because on my calls with members across the country with some of my job duties, like every state is different and every state is going through this. Some are just saying, we're banning these. Others are trying to say, hey, can we put this inside a liquor store? So we're making sure these are, is that legal drinking age? I don't even have, what's the phrase I would say for that? I'll have to think about that. So yeah, just making sure, the consumer is protected as well. And it's a little bit more like what, we and you face on a daily basis.
So what else is other members of the KDA, what have they been voicing concerns about whether it's in a town hall meeting or something like that? Are they worried about younger generations? I mean, obviously THC is one of them. Is there any other things that they're bringing up and saying like, these are things that we want the KDA to kind of start tackling?
I mean, I think we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but I would definitely think this DTC issue is still pretty prevalent amongst our members, particularly the smaller guys. Tax issues.
Because you all recently rolled back the barrel tax.
Correct.
About a year or two ago, something like that.
Yeah, but it takes 17 years to go in effect or something.
Yeah, well,
but it's still a win.
Bardstown's gonna be mad about it no matter what. But
it's drawn down over time. The barrel tax was something that, since I started at the KDA, it was just long held that this is something our members have just long tried to reduce or eliminate, because it's the only place in the world that would have a tax. Nowhere else in the United States, nowhere else, no whiskey producing country has this barrel
maybe
tax.
Not even many manufacturing industries. That's like saying you're building a car, but the engine's being built here, and we got to tax you as it's being built.
That's my coworker's analogy, actually, on the Toyota line. Jack, he says that all the time, because it just was really unfair. It really kind of stifled innovation. It stifled growth for some of our guys when they're always paying these really tough barrel taxes. So, as you said, it is starting to wind down. I think they call it a step down, year over year. And we're hoping that will help some of our members keep growing, be able to just move on past this kind of onerous tax that really kind of hindered us for a while. But I'm talking trying to be preemptive of any other tax increases, because if you look, other states are looking at increases in taxes on alcohol.
You mean like at the retail level, or
whether
is
it's
it
excise
wholesale,
tax or anything like that, anything that helps their state coffers, they're looking at that. So we're always kind of keeping an eye on that here in Kentucky. I think the export market is something our members, particularly our younger guys, are trying to figure out about how we can get into these markets, tariffs notwithstanding.
Yeah.
But just looking at other markets. But yeah, I think those are the big things, because
you mentioned the dietary guidelines too. Are they like, what's going? Because I don't know. We read Mark Brown's newsletter, and it's like every day there's somebody saying alcohol is going to kill you, this and that, and then like it gets picked up, by the mainstream media, and it's like, talk about that whole, I guess, situation with the dietary guidelines.
Okay, so
go ahead and crack that can of worms open.
Yeah, there's a lot to that, and thankfully we're part of that world alliance with alcohol to help look at this, because it kind of came down from the World Health Organization about there's like no safe level, and so we argue that shows the science that that's not the case, and so that's kind of translated into some of these warning labels. There's the nutritional label. There's do you guys need to start putting caloric content on your labels? There's a lot of facets to this that we're working through, and we're just trying to push the established science that you can really rely on versus more of this no safe. It seems a little partisan to a lot of
draconian.
A lot of the industry. So that's something we're obviously keeping an eye on, and there's more to come on that. I think there was actually news on it today that I haven't had a chance to really read up on, but it's coming. With everyone looking at the guidelines, whether you need to put carbohydrate, caloric content, and there's also the allergens too. That's another component of this.
Jeez.
Yeah, because obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously. In the industry, standard is that there is no gluten through distillation; that all of those proteins are stripped out. But there's still some concern that that these kind of things need to be on the label. But I feel like that might be confusing to the consumer, because they'll see that label and then they'll think, well, is there something in there when all that wheat or gluten has been taken out?
Oh, it'll kill the weeded category then, right?
Exactly.
We can't have that happen.
Just started to get hot.
I know.
And I have a hard time kind of describing, because they're all kind of intertwined. There's so much going on with the TTB, with these dietary guidelines. Sometimes when people ask me that, I'm like, well, which four aspects of this are you really trying to get at? Because there's times when we're trying to write some of these responses and do some of the research, these things really blend over each other. So I probably didn't answer that as well as you would have wanted, but give me more
it's a
time.
complicated subject.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it is complicated. And so what else, what other kind of things in regulation world is happening? You all did an awesome job of championing House Bill 500, which anybody can go and research. It opened up a lot of the self-distribution like you talked about, gift shop sales, satellite tasting rooms. Sort of where do you see the outcome of that, sort of what's been happening in regards to growth, or if there's any other kind of legislation you all are also trying to work on that, as somebody that has a voice behind the microphone, we can reach a mass audience out there that we can help be a champion for it as well.
Yeah, I think you mentioned, all those things are kind of tied together that you just mentioned, because, for example, the gift shop sales, that was huge, allowing you guys to kind of keep your gift shop sales without that 3-tier component, because it didn't really make sense, right? That you guys would have to theoretically take your bottle that you have here, send it to the distributor just to have it come back to sell to a visitor.
Oh, I know, it's asinine.
Yeah, so that gift shop component then has really helped so many of our members with that tourism component, and so now they're starting to really getting some more interest with these satellite tasting rooms, because it allows, again, that more market access. Market access is something I'll probably say a million times on here, but you can see how these things are kind of intertwined, because it really just helps the bottom line for our guys. So if you have another location and you're getting those extra sales from that gift shop independence, as we call it, that's pretty important. Now, if we can just get more states to ship some of these bottles to, that's really going to help, particularly because that goes through your gift shop. So yeah, I think it's more along the lines of, we've done so much over these past legislative terms. Now it's like really kind of fine tuning some things that our members really want. In my mind, in New York, a great example is, they're able to ship directly to a business as a producer. So that's kind of an interesting concept, right? This bar may need my product. Ship it.
Yeah.
So things like that. I don't know if we're too into asking for extra satellite tasting rooms, because I think we're still in the infancy of a lot of our guys. I mean, you're seeing on where you guys are, you're getting a couple satellite tasting rooms there on Whiskey Row. But our guys continue to look into more options and continue to tap into that kind of KBT tourism element.
Yeah, with the tourism side, I mean, when people come, like right now, Louisville, Bardstown, those are pretty big hotbeds. Frankfurt, obviously, people are going there. I don't know how many people are staying in Frankfurt. And then Lexington is trying to build theirs up. Outside of those major 4 areas, what do you see as other parts of the state, and how are they trying to get people out there and stuff like that too? Are they relying a lot on the tourism companies, or not the tourism, but maybe the mint juleps of the world? Mm-hmm. Or are they relying on their own advertising to get people out there? Kind of just talk about what it looks like broadly across the state of what they're trying to do to get people in their doors.
Yeah, and I think we call it the Amber Triangle, as you mentioned, between Bardstown, Lexington, and Louisville, right? But outside of that, I think a great example is Northern Kentucky, the efforts they put in with things like the Beeline that Julie and her team are doing. We've got just a whole stable of great distilleries up there in Northern Kentucky. Those guys are doing a great job getting the word out. I think Western Kentucky is another kind of slept on hidden gem. Those guys all work so well together. Obviously a little bit more spread out.
But close to Nashville.
Well, exactly. So they're trying to tap into that market. Like, hey, just come over to Kentucky. Maybe you tried Tennessee whiskey. Come on up.
Come on up.
So
we're not far away.
Yeah. So those guys really do a good job of, banding together and helping educate potential consumers, particularly from such a great market in Nashville. But I think a lot of times, if you just think of the geography of Central Kentucky, that's where a lot of the mint julep tours, for example, they're able to I just passed 2 on my way here from Danville.
Yeah.
So there's just a good concentration there. So I do think sometimes without that transportation logistical help, in that section. Those guys like Northern Kentucky and Western Kentucky have to do things a little bit differently, but they're doing a great job.
Yeah, that's what I was always worried about, with Wilderness Trail being out in Danville. It's like, how do people know about this unless they're advertising a lot or getting somebody to plan the trip around them? Because it's like that's my day. I'm going to Danville, right?
Right.
Just trying to depend on what it is. Beyond that, I mean, the KDA has been a driving force behind a lot of things that happen with inside legislation. That's how bills get passed. That's how taxes get taken care of. One of the things that we learned recently through here, and I'm too sure if you know this story too. So Melwood, the distillery that we're currently sitting on right now, George W. Swearingen, who was the founder of Melwood, was also a founder of the KDA back in 1890 when it was founded. He was one of 5 people that were representatives.
I'll have to go back and look because that was at the Galt House. It was 1888.
Oh, is it one?
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look.
Then you can go talk to Chet Zoller in his grave because that's where I pulled that information from.
Well, I'm sure by 1890 maybe. I'll have to go back and look at the minutes of that first meeting. We have those in our office.
Do you really? That's awesome.
And I think that's why we've been kind of successful at the KDAs because people have worked together for so long. I think that makes my job so easy. It makes our job at the KDA easier is that there is this kind of history of working together. And just going back to what you just said about Wilderness Trail, I think it taps into that secret is so many people, if you were, say, at Limestone Branch or at Maker's Mark, just picture this in your head geographically, or, Four Roses Wild Turkey, those tour guides would say, hope you enjoyed your tour here. Pop on down to Wilderness Trail. It's great. They have more of like a science bent. Learn about the sweet mash process or whatever. And so those tour guides are recommending competitors. I probably said this before in the last time we did this. I do think that's our secret sauce. Is that a lot of times visitors come in like, what do you mean you're telling somebody to go to a competitor? And I think that has really driven a lot of this, the good vibes of the KBT of, hey, I'm like Heaven Hill is great at this. You enjoyed our tour, pop on over to Copper and Kings or head on over to Peerless, whatever the case may be. I think that really has helped. And I think it kind of goes back to 1890 or 1888 when we were founded, that camaraderie and being able to step up and help each other. I think the example everybody knows best, right, is when you take the tour at Heaven Hill and they talk about the fire and who stepped up to help them continue to keep producing when they had that tragic incident. So that's the one I think visitors know a lot about, but I don't think sometimes that it really dawns on them how much the KBT really helps foster the spirit of cooperation.
Camaraderie.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's really what sets us apart and really makes bourbon special.
It does. It is special. And I'm so glad that you're able to come and share some insight about what you've been up to for the past, 10 years since we've been on here?
Yeah. I hope you hit record this time.
Yeah, we got it. Remember,
shit.
backups on backups.
Oh, the red light's on. Thank God.
The red lights are on this time. But Adam, I want to say thank you again for coming on.
Thanks. It's great.
Like I said, really appreciate everything that you're doing to help grow the category, help build the business book that's happening here in our great state, because it truly goes to show, like, people probably don't know what your organization does a lot behind the scenes, but it's truly pivotal in regards of making sure that it's not just always visitation, right? It's business. It's a lot of the things that you probably don't think are fun or clean or sexy on the other end. It's taxes, it's regulation, it's all these things that necessarily that are needed just to function, to operate, but that also helps trickle down to the end consumer, because it either brings you lower goods, it can bring you better experiences, it can do all these different things.
Accessibility.
Yes.
We didn't even touch on, I know we're trying to wrap up, but we didn't even touch on the part that really makes me excited too, is like looking at 100 years.
Let's talk 100 years real quick.
If you start thinking about White Oak sustainability, you start thinking about the environmental part of what is so essential to bourbon making, right? The stuff that Sarah in our office does with the University of Kentucky on research. What do we do with all these spent grains? Like, what do you guys do? Right? All this stuff that
Ryan eats them all.
That's right.
He makes pancakes with them.
That sounds good, actually.
Chicken feed.
These are just like small examples to me of things that we do work on in the office just to ensure that there's bourbon on the shelf, 100 years from now. So, it's also why I love my job, right? Every day is something different. We're looking at whatever issues coming down the pike, whether it's nutritional labeling, whether it's this kind of grain, whether it's this kind of production technique, this kind of safety, or what's the latest in responsibility. Like this program we're working on with all the colleges and universities across Kentucky to make sure students are learning about responsible drinking. I mean, the list is wild that we work on, but I love the variety, and I think I appreciate you mentioning that we are kind of the guys behind the scenes, but I wouldn't want it any other way. If we can kind of keep goosing things along and keep seeing Kentucky bourbon on the shelf, then I think we'll still be hopefully employed.
Yeah, hopefully all of us, right?
No worries there.
We'll see if this podcast is still around in that time, and we'll know that we've made it. But Adam, thank you again for coming on the show today. It was awesome to be able to do that. If you want to give a plug about where people can learn more about the KDA, more about the trail, everything like that, I'm sure it's a quick Google search away, but let them know how you can do it.
KentuckyBourbonTrail.com or go to kybourbon.com and we got you.
There you go. Easy enough. And you all had amazing rebrands in the past couple of years as well.
You're talking about it. Yeah. We're 25 years old, the KBT. So rolled out some new branding and refreshed the look. And still more to come. We're always trying to make the website better, just make things easier because there's a lot on there. There's a lot of places to visit. And we want to make sure it's even easier for the consumer to digest.
Yeah. You won all kinds of awards for the rebrand as well. I remember that.
Not me personally.
Well, you get to take credit for
You get
it.
to take credit.
You're here, so you get the credit.
That's Mandy, Allison, Colleen are obviously they did a great job. And Lewis in Nashville.
There we go.
Hat tip.
Shout out to the entire team there.
Yeah.
But make sure you go check it out. If you're planning your next trip, now you know where to start. Go to KentuckyBourbonTrail.com. You can start figuring out all those little spots because I'm sure you know the major names around here. You know your Makers, your Beam, your your Heaven Hill. But beyond there, there's how many are on?
60.
60?
Yeah, it's like 60 plus.
And growing.
Mandy's always adding more. So
Plus one more after this.
Yeah, there we go. We're going to sign it. We're going to sign it in blood when this is done. But make sure you go check that out and also subscribe to Bourbon Pursuit wherever you get your podcasts. Share it with a friend. And if you do want to support us, you like the content Ryan and I, and sometimes Fred is on here, bring to you, you can do it for as little as $5 a month on Patreon.
That's right. We'll see y'all next time.
Yeah. Cheers, everybody. Bye.
Toodles.